Sekeres and Price from Wall Center, a presentation, Applewood Auto Group. And looky here, Blake. 1 week ago, we announced our partnership with the Nation Network. One of the things we say is we're so eager to be working with all their great editorialists to begin with, and one of them has made it here to the Go-Goat Sports studio. He is the managing editor of Canucks Army and the host of Canucks Conversation. And you're using this studio now, David Quadrelli. We're so pleased to have you aboard.
Yeah, very pleased to be here. I like it more when there's green on the back. I gotta say, the green looks pretty
The green
sharp.
Oh, the green pops. It looks
pop.
pretty sick.
Yeah.
Now we're partial to our cobalt. Don't call it blue. It's cobalt. We were instructed on this in the early going. Anyways, how are things working out for you here?
Great. Yeah, really liking it so far. Yeah, we're trying to figure out the lighting. That's the main thing for us right now, but it feels like we've had 2 shows here, and each day we knock out something different. Like the first show, people were saying you need to fix this. We fixed it. Second show, fix another thing. Third show, fix another thing. And soon there'll be nothing to fix.
I've been in a new place for the last year and 5 months, and I'm still working on it. So, it takes a while to move into a new dig. So welcome, and hopefully you guys are enjoying yourself.
Yeah, it's good. It's been good so far.
You are very fastidious. I'm sure you will get to every last issue here, David, and make sure it sings much like Wyatt Arndt's copy on a game night basis.
That copy comes in very late.
I enjoy watching the repartee between the two of them on social media, no less.
There was a great
about the editing job done on his copy.
It was a great metaphor or simile last time.
Days.
What was the one thing really stood out? Somebody even clipped it. He had a metaphor or simile or something in there that was just so good last time out. I don't know. They're always in there.
There's at least 6 in every single one. So take your pick.
Yeah. It's hey, it couldn't be
a better. The Stanchies, of course. Yes. You got to follow the Stanchies after every game at Canucks Army.
I mean, it's quite a season for all of us in the media because we haven't had this in a while, isn't it? Do you feel like you're covering a different sport almost? Like it just feels like a different experience right now covering this team.
Someone pointed out in our YouTube live chat of our show yesterday, they were like, the last time the Canucks were this good, Harman and Quads were 11 years old.
Yeah.
And it's actually true. Like the last time they were this good, we were actually 11 years old. And now we're covering this team, and we've never covered a team like this, I can tell you that. And yeah, it does. It feels different. I think that's a good way to put it, that it feels like you're covering something completely different because it's unlike any experience I've had covering the team to this point, for sure.
In 2011, and a couple of years before that, even I remembered, there was so much winning. And we held that team to such a standard.
We got tired of winning.
Well, it's not that we got tired, but we got accustomed to quibbling. Like it was the fine tuning. We had to say that fourth line right winger guts to go, just guts, not good enough. Right now, maybe it's because we're rusty in that regard. It's almost hard to find stuff to quibble with, don't you think? Like, it's even hard to, even if you held them to a Stanley Cup contender status, and I'm not calling them a Stanley Cup contender.
Oh, come on.
But if you use that template, even, what are you quibbling with? Like, they're on such a heater right now. It's hard to find any criticism.
And that's going to be the topic of our show today, as Harman wrote about PDO over at The Athletic, and we're going to be looking under the hood of their start, because we talked about it yesterday on our show as well. The regression, we know it's going to regress at some point, but
what that looks like, who knows? Yeah,
exactly. Right now, just everything's clicking, so something's going to give at some point, but I don't know. Like that's kind of where my take on it all stands. Is everything going to fall at the same time? We've seen it in the city. I just don't. I don't know if that's going to happen with this team.
That's our poll today, David. Are you worried about regression?
Yeah, it's a very good poll question by you guys today. No, and the reason I'm not is because the power play, the penalty kill, the goaltending, the 5-on-5 play, it's all clicking right now, right? And I'd say the most sustainable part of all of that is, in order, I would say the goaltending is the most sustainable. I would say the power play is the second most.
I'd agree.
I would say the 5-on-5 play is maybe third, and penalty kill is fourth, and maybe even swap those, the 5-on-5 and the penalty kill, because the penalty kill has been so good this season that, and JPat wrote about this at Canucks Army, where the times the penalty kill has given up goals, it's been against world beaters. Like it's been against the best players in the National Hockey League. So,
and 5-on-3, couple of 5-on-3 goals.
Exactly.
And
Now, it's
coming back.
It's 77%. It's 18th in the league. It does have to get better, but I hear what you're saying. There's
Yeah.
context around it.
There's a lot of context that goes into that percentage. And for that reason, no, I'm not worried about regression. And I think I'm interested to see what Harmon pulls out today because he's dove into the numbers a little bit more than I have. But just based on feel, I look at what's clicking for this team right now. You've got Casey DeSmith playing well, although I think people are reading a little bit too much into how well he's playing. Like anybody out there suggesting that Casey DeSmith should start over Thatcher Demko, they're out to lunch. And I'm sorry, no matter how
that
well
person
Casey
doesn't exist. Come
Oh,
on.
we've seen them.
Oh,
Woodley and I had these
David finds
conversations.
them. Yeah.
Yeah, we found them. Woodley finds them, and Woodley and I talked
And
about
of course, we're throwing around that word regression, but the other word we're throwing around is cushion.
Yes.
And we did the story yesterday on Welcome, Matt, that there's only been 6 instances of teams blowing it from here in terms of missing the playoffs. All of them had either long losing streaks or significant injuries to star players. Quads, I know you're a big goaltending guy. Demko this year, has it just been good health, or is there more at play here? Because I want to say it was 50 out of 51 grade A chances that he had repelled, which is like maybe the most astonishing stat of all these astonishing stats about the Vancouver Canucks.
You talked to Thatcher about it, and the way he looks at last season is I had 12 bad games and they were all in succession. And let's be honest, guys, like the goaltending was an issue last year. The 5-on-5 play was atrocious as well. The penalty kill needed to be miles better than it was. But the goaltending was an issue last year. Let's not make any mistake about it. It was a problem last year, and that included Thatcher Demko. Obviously, Spencer Martin and Colin Delia, they didn't hold up their end of the bargain, but neither did the defense. With the topic of Thatcher Demko, I think it's significant to note that this was an offseason where he came in, I think it was like late July. He was here working with Ian Clark. He came up from San Diego very, very early to work with Ian Clark. And he didn't really get to have that full offseason and that start last offseason, the one before this one. He didn't have that. And then he came back. And obviously he was facing 5 alarm chances night in and night out, eventually tore his groin. But I asked him about it and he didn't really humor me on it much, but I don't care what he says. I think to some extent, I know it, not having a full start to your offseason and starting at the same time as you normally would, because you have to recover and you have to rehab an injury, that's going to affect you. That's going to affect your preparation. So look, I've always thought Thatcher's a fantastic goaltender, but I think right now what we're seeing is a full offseason to recover, to prepare, and obviously the environment in front of him is miles better than it ever has been.
Is he as good as Spencer Martin of the Columbus Blue Jackets with that 928 save percentage? I don't know what's going on there at all. But good on Spencer Martin for landing on his feet somewhere. Do you think the Canucks should prepare for the R word, the regression word? Do you believe that they are working to better this team for that eventuality? Is there a transaction in the hopper, if you will, as much as Myers and Friedman have played well? They still hunting down that right shot defenseman? Do you think they're still looking for Beauvillier and Garland landing spots because they know that this day is eventually going to come?
I think you have to, and I think we should stop using the word regression, because I think what this team needs to prepare for more is something Matt brought up earlier: the potential of an injury to a star player. Like, your depth is pretty solid. Like, you've got Arshdeep Bains leading the AHL in scoring. He can probably come in, be a pretty serviceable 3rd, 4th line winger, if not this year.
They still haven't used Teddy Bluger.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They still have Teddy Bluger, right? Waiting in the wings. But I think this team's depth is what you really need to look at, because look, we were talking about what you nitpick about a contender, which, make no mistake about it, this Canucks team is a contender.
Okay. Well, you heard it here
in
first.
all seriousness, like, if you look for things that this team needs to improve on, it is their depth. If you're going to be a playoff team, which I think this team will be based on their start and what they've done, it's going to be almost hard for them to fall off completely and not make the playoffs at this point in time. But that's what you need to improve, is your depth, because look, like, later in the year, we see it every year, guys. Like, we see teams, and not necessarily the star players, but you're going to lose guys throughout the year. You are going to lose guys. So, like, this team can't afford to lose Mark Friedman right now. That's where we're at right now.
Yes.
So
No,
yes,
absolutely.
that needs to be
And
addressed.
Friedman as your 7th defenseman is the proper move,
Yes,
right? So they still have to look for that.
Yeah.
I feel like, David, outside of opening night and the 4 goals, that we haven't talked a ton about Brock Boeser, and he would otherwise be the biggest story in Canucks land, if not for everything else that's going on. I see that Canucks Army has written recently about Brock Boeser. Stefan Roger, Brock Boeser's revived goal scoring, gets the headline, but that's not all. He's vastly improved this year. A word or two about Boeser's campaign to date.
JT Miller's getting a lot of the love, and rightfully so. But also, when you talk to Miller about it, he always points out what Phil DiGiuseppe and what Brock Boeser are doing. And Miller really dove in on the topic of Boeser after last game, and I think he put it really well, talking about how he's really added the net front presence to his game, like getting to the front of the net, screening the goaltender, getting into it with the defenseman who's trying to box him out, and now a lot of times doing it rather unsuccessfully. So he's added that to his game. The ability to get in on the forecheck, I think he's added a step or two in his offseason. We know he had that big offseason training, stayed away from the beauty league, which I always say is like a glorified beer league.
And it might preach bad habits to you.
Exactly.
Worst.
And he had that offseason of training where, Tocchet said that was going to be important for him. And look, he's passed with flying colors. And this is something Tocchet focused on in his post-game press conference last game, was these guys that are putting up points, they're not cheating for offense at all. They are playing the game the right way. Like Brock Boeser's playing a matchup role, and he is producing the way he is right now. A lot of those goals are at 5-on-5. A lot of his points are happening at 5-on-5, and a lot of the good things that he's doing, even aside from scoring, are happening at 5-on-5. That McDavid line, as much as we talk about how the Miller, DiGiuseppe, and Boeser line has been able to shut them down through 3 contests, what we really need to focus on is that DiGiuseppe and Boeser and Miller, but especially the wingers on that line, are getting in on the forecheck, and they're making it really hard for the Oilers defensemen to even get the puck to McDavid. And when you're forechecking like that, that's going to lead to results. And that's what we've seen with Boeser, and something that maybe we haven't seen as much in years past, his ability to be on a shutdown line and really excel at it. That's what he's added to his game.
I know you guys like to track the young Canucks and the prospects all the way up. We had the discussion the other night about Nils Höglander after the contribution against the Oilers, and then the coach's comments thereafter. Is he free and clear of a healthy scratch? Do you think he has arrived as a every night NHLer?
Yes, but I think he still has a short leash. So yes and no, I suppose, because right now there's a lot of things going right for this team and a lot of things going really well for Nils Höglander. But when you have a guy like Teddy Bluger, you're not scratching Teddy Bluger. Teddy Bluger's not going to be a healthy scratch when he's eventually healthy. I think the Canucks are afforded an opportunity where they can slow play Bluger in, right? Give him all the time he needs to heal. I think they're in a position to do that, but somebody's got to come out. I think everybody in that bottom 6, Connor Garland, Dakota Joshua, Anthony Beauvillier, Nils Höglander, I think they all fall into the same category of they are playing fine right now, but they are all going to have short leashes.
Let me ask you it this way. If Bluger's ready to go, say, Sunday in Montreal, there's 2 games before that. If Höglander had sort of quiet games, do you think he could be a scratch Sunday?
Absolutely. I think whoever has the quietest game of those names that I just mentioned.
Including Beauvillier. So you think they'd be willing to scratch Beauvillier?
Absolutely.
Because I do think they'd like to move Beauvillier or Garland in search of this defenseman if that's anyway doable. All right. Last question for you. Speaking of that Habs game on Sunday, you're in at Rinkwide with JPat on Sunday. First time through.
Going to be a lot of fun. I'm very excited for it. JPat and I have a great relationship. He's recently come on at Canucks Army, which has been a lot of fun. And when JPat got hired, the thing I started telling everybody, JPat doesn't even know this, thing I told everybody is he's coming on to Canucks Army. I'm going to make JPat be silly and fun.
Oh, wow.
And were you successful?
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, the Patterson's pondering bit, he laughs at it every time. So I think so. I think we're getting there.
It's quite a bromance that's developing here.
Yes.
Great to see you.
Yes.
Look forward to working with you. We'll have your cohort, Mr. Dial, in there in this spot next week, and then we'll start up with some Canucks Army guests. So looking forward to this, David.
Fantastic.
Happy hour on Sekeres and Price. Today's beer of the day, Yellow Dog Squirrel Chaser Hazy Pale Ale.